Thank you, Bert.
Hello. Can we get everybody? Thank you. Hey, welcome to the March edition of the Middletown Area Town Hall. Ms. Arms.
I'm going to jump over here for right now, and then I'll move up there.
Yes, I have a thing so people can hear me. Ms. Arms, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
mission statement. I know, I'm looking at it. I need to apologize. I usually do the mission statement and I forgot it at home. But basically, what it says is, everyone here has a vote. The board is here just to run the meetings. We have as much say as the rest of you do. And if we have an action item, it's the majority rules. Whatever the majority of the room comes up with, that's what the board represents to the Board of Supervisors or any other entity. So that's it in a nutshell. I will get it next week, I promise. I mean, next month. Sorry. It's okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that since she lost the mission statement, that she commits suicide tomorrow morning.
All right.
In favor?
You don't get to vote.
All right. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Any comments, questions, anything like that?
Motion to approve.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Everybody in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? Okay. Mr. Secretary,
We have correspondence. I have 3 pieces of correspondence from County Lake, from the Lake Area Rotary Club, and from Caltrans. I'll go to pre-application development review agenda on a project that is proposed for out by Dry Creek Cutoff. At this point, it's only a pre-application meeting. No action is going to be taken. The planning director will host a meeting, and will all the people that were notified and invited to come will come and make their comments relative to what they find out from this 10 or 12 page document. There's no action to be taken other than to approve the chairman to go and represent NAP at this pre-application meeting.
that'll be later in the
And what does he do when he represents MAP at this
He
pre-application?
listens and then comes back to us.
Okay, I make a motion that our chairman go to this meeting and
It's
listen
on
and
the
bring
agenda
back.
for later, so
Oh.
we'll deal with it
Alrighty then.
Next.
Next one is from Caltrans, and it's lengthy. It has to do with 175, Highway 175. And most of the information, I don't want to read it word for word because it's quite lengthy. Basically, it says that they cut down about 58 trees, and there's another 58 that they wanted to that they've waited over a period of months to see if they would come back. They thought they were dead, and the arborist says they are dead and will have to be removed. It does not deal with the location or the width of the road at all, only about the trees. So that's about all, other than the Hartman Road roundabout. There's an issue about the Hartman Road roundabout. You know, there's going to be a roundabout at where Hartman Road comes to 29. Everyone know that? Well, they're going to put a roundabout there. And the Middletown Art Center and artists in the community have contacted Caltrans regarding doing some kind of artwork at this roundabout. and they are presently evaluating that. It's way down the road before the roundabout gets built, so I think we'll have to see about plans, and then I'm sure the art community will want to do something, but they won't be able to do anything until they find out how it's going to be built and the configuration and all that, I'm sure. The roundabout at Highway 20 at Nice and Lucerne has a roundabout, and there's some artwork there, as you know. So it's not unheard of to have some artwork, and that'd be great. So at some point down the road, that may come back to you to talk about the artwork at the roundabout at Hartman Road, at which time we want to make sure that we let all the residents of Hidden Valley know what's going on, because they're going to see it every day, and maybe most of us won't. So we'll, when the time comes, I'll bring it back to the to MAP, and
Mr.
we
Secretary,
can.
also, Caltrans is looking to come in April and discuss that, and also bring us up to date more according to that note of what's going on at 175 here.
Talk about the location of it.
Yeah.
This doesn't refer to the location. I can't answer any questions because I know nothing more than what says in this paper. The other issue, the other communication is from Middletown Merchants Association, Beth Rudiger. They're going to have a tree planting at Trailside Park, March 25th.
Rotary.
Rotary, yes, Rotary. But this came from Middletown Area Merchants, Beth Rudiger. That's who the email came from.
Yes, sir.
But Rotary is the sponsor of this. And the question that Matt ought to ask is, we heard that Victoria Brandon was going to plant trees there, and we also heard that the county was going to plant trees there. So I don't know whether this is all coordinated or it's independent. And the other question that I have is Trailside Park ready for trees to be planted? Have you seen Trailside Park? It's a disaster. So I'm just telling you, March 25th, the Lake Area Rotary Club is asking for volunteers to help plant trees March 25th. And if you want to get a hold of someone, please call 707-260-2900. Okay?
No,
That's
sorry.
not the number you call? So
Well, that's
I'll
me.
scratch that number off. How about this other number, cell phone 326-129?
No, that's me too.
That's not a good number either. Okay, who do they contact?
Rotary, and
their number is?
I don't know.
Okay.
Is it still on for the 25th?
It is still on for the
Okay.
25th. And
Do they have a plan on where they're gonna put the trees?
They do. They do. I spoke to the Parks Department, and they are planting just a section of the trees. So
So it's Lars Ewing who, I think, sent the invitation and stuff out. So they plan on doing a 5-acre area. They didn't send a map out with it. I did not see that. I know that I can get that information here and try and relay it, but they're doing 5 acres. We'd like people to be out there to help with the replanting. We definitely know that we need to address those issues with the downwood and those types of things. They're currently working with community development, community development, or whether Paul Castro, to get some workers out there just so we can get that cleaned up. And those are some of the things that Lars was talking about last week. Yes.
Mr. Supervisor, I can remember very clearly the state arborist, Juicy, saying that it's imperative that we have some kind of a good plan on how many trees. So we had 20 times too many trees in that park, and we ought to be judicial on how we plant them and the spacing and all that. So I just want to make sure that we're doing it
I want
right.
to see the plan. So I
Yeah.
can carry that message back to
There you
him
go.
at this point. I'll give Lars a call tomorrow and get some more conversation. Claude, I'll get with you guys and we can bring back the information. The other things on the Caltrans issue, myself and Rob sit on the South Deal Committee with Caltrans. There'll be another meeting in June. Rob was able to attend today. I was at a Cache Creek tour, the dam tour today. So Rob went to that. We'll carry the messages of concern, obviously, with the trees and the widening, the movement of that as the project moves forward. But in June, obviously, we'll attend that next meeting. But in the meantime, be talking with Jamie and everybody working on the project and carrying those concerns. And they do know the concerns. I was just on the phone. They were on the phone yesterday with myself when we were at the at another meeting. And Jamie said he was writing the letter. I thought he was going to be here, but he said he couldn't make it. He'll be here in April. And he said that they will be addressing that, and they're working, and they know the concerns of the community. Not saying it's going to fix it, but they know the concerns.
What I can say is, as far as the letter goes, it's open. So if you guys, if somebody has a question, wants to look at the full letter, it's right here.
Yeah, I've got a
Be my
copy.
guest.
I only have one copy, so if you want to read it, all it says is they cut down some, left some. The ones they left are not gonna grow, they're gonna have to cut those down too. So,
You got anything else, Rob, that you guys talked
No, I
about
just
today?
wanted to make sure everybody knows how it works. You went to the damn tour, I went to the damn meeting.
A lot of damn meetings, eh? Or tours.
For the Trailside Park volunteers, does it say what time they're meeting?
Beth?
9 a.m., right?
does not say.
Gosh, I'm looking at the email right now, and boy, I don't see a time on it either, although my recollection from an earlier email was that it was like 11 in the morning on. But here is a phone number that you can call. They're saying lunch will be provided, so they'd like an approximate head count if you're coming out. So Jennifer Strong sent this email.
Oh, Jennifer, okay.
And her phone number is 262-1880.
Everybody get that? Okay.
Do we know what kind of trees are going to be planted?
That'd be the green ones.
Not burnt ones.
Little ones.
Yeah, I mean, don't we have to have something that's kind of indigenous?
Oh, I'm sure.
That's not our, we're not into that, that's not
There's
our deal.
seedlings that were planted, that they paid for to be planted and propagated shortly after the fire. And they've been growing in a large greenhouse facility for the past year and are now ready to plant. And it doesn't say what kind they are.
Okay, all right, let's move on to the next one, committee reports. Back on the back counter back there, there are 10 copies of the area bylaws, or the bylaws for the map. And the adjustments or the changes we've made.
We've recommended.
It recommended, I should say, yes, recommended. And that, so we're opening here for discussion in a little bit. So if you want to grab a copy and share it amongst you, if you want a personal copy, let me know and I'll email it to you later during the week. But if you go along, take a look, see if you got any comments in that, we'd like to hear it now because at the next meeting, we'd like to vote and approve these and move on and get it to the county for the record, and that's how we would operate. So again, there should be about some copies back there. If you can pass them around, that'd be great. And then we can come back to it here towards the end.
My turn?
Michael, the Valley Fire.
No, I think it's me.
Okay,
Yeah, it's me.
Okay,
Okay,
Lisa.
so in January, this body approved a motion to establish a Valley Fire Committee, Memorial Committee. And there are 3 unknowns in this proposal or project. The form that the memorial will take, the location where it will reside, and then of course the funding, the financing of it. And I'm going to turn it over to Lisa because she has spoken with her contact in parks, the possibility of this Middletown Square Park being a resting place for the memorial. So Lisa?
Yeah, so I spoke to the department and they said that they would like to work with the community. If the community would like to do something here at the Middletown Square Park, then they're open to us doing it here. They're open to us doing something at the Trailside Park if the community would like. So they would like to have like meetings with the community and get community input. In general, actually, what they told me there is on how the park is going to evolve in any case. She indicated that there was some leniency with the original dictum for what we could do in the park since the fire?
There was a little bit of discussion here and there about, how we bring the park back to life. Bringing it back to exactly the way it was going to be very difficult. So replanting trees, trails, those types of things. We've been approached by some community members of, there's a lack of baseball diamonds or something for the kids on this end of the county. None of that stuff is to go, but those are things that have been approached, and they've gotten calls, and I've gotten calls of, how we bring that thing back together. So I think the plan, perfectly what we were talking about earlier, as planting the trees and those types of things, are something interesting. Don't know what could happen, but it's a unique opportunity right now as we rebuild that thing, to really take care of everybody, both the equestrian, the walking parks, the art, but also, we are, like I said, I've been approached a few times about, that'd be a neat place if there were maybe a couple baseball diamonds or something that it could accommodate the youth, that are really, fighting over on top of each other to get out on the fields and those types of things. So there were some different ideas thrown out there. I don't know what's happening, but that was general conversation.
So what I was advised is that they would like to bring it to the community for the community to discuss. And so both the park here and the Trailside Park are possibilities for putting a memorial. Likewise, the Lake County Land Trust owns Rabbit Hill, and they are definitely interested in doing some kind of memorial and little kind of sculpture walk there. The way that it would work in terms of grants is that MAC would apply together in partnership with other entities. But it's important for us to have some proposals so that we have budgets and things like that. So the first thing we'd want to do is figure out where, because artists want to know where their work is going to go, so that they can figure out what kind of art they want to make. And then when we have some proposals, we don't have to make any decisions, but when we have some proposals, then we can start to apply for grants, because that will dictate our budget as well as the quality of the work that we're proposing to the grantors. So it's a step-by-step process that would actually have to begin with the community discussing its openness to having the sculptures, a memorial sculpture here, and or at the park, which has to do with how the park is going to evolve. And then Rabbit Hill, as I mentioned, is a definite possibility.
Do you have meetings scheduled at any?
I will get a hold of Lars, and we can work together if you want, of setting up the community meetings.
That would be great.
So we can move forward on the project. So I will give Lars a call, and we'll start to set up some times and options on dates, and we can set this up and see if we can get it moving forward.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think that Trailside Park would be perfect, but I think there's a lot of work to be done before we talk about artwork out there. What form is that park going to take? Is it going to be ball fields? Is it going to be soccer fields? Is it going to be equestrian things? Is it going to be art walk? Maybe like they had out there the last couple of years, what you call that?
Sculpture walk.
No, they didn't call it that.
Eco art.
art.
Oh, that's a
Eco
sculpture
art.
walk, yeah.
So all that stuff, we don't want to get ahead and start talking about sculptures and all of that until the community decides what form they want Trailside Park to take. In the past, every time we wanted to do something out there, whether it be a ball field, a loping arena, or anything, the county has said, no, you can't do anything. Okay, now, obviously that's changed. So I think we ought to...
They just tell you that.
I beg pardon?
They just tell you that.
That sounds about right.
There will be a process. It isn't just going to happen tomorrow, Fletcher. Completely hear your concerns, but we will. I will get with Lars and we'll set up the meetings and we can start those long-term conversations on how we're bringing it back. And I will bring up the concern of
I do know that
where the trees are being planted.
Katie has sent a letter to the state, her counterpart, and from what I know, she's still waiting for the response from them as to what exactly are the rules involved.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can
I'm
find
all for
out.
flexibility, but the first concern should be about this community and what it wants to see in the park, not what Lakeport wants to see in the park.
But that's exactly
No,
what they
it'll come
said,
from
is
here.
that they want to work with us,
Okay,
so.
next subject, okay.
Wait, Claude, I want to say one more
Oh,
thing.
sorry.
When I grew up here, and it was privately owned, Rabbit Hill was.
1800?
Yeah, 1800s. And they had not that we need this kind of thing, but at least something that lit up, like they had an American flag up there with lights at one point, they had a cross that they lit up at one point. So, I mean, maybe something that's a sculpture thing that can be with solar,
Well,
that might be.
Rabbit Hill belongs to the land.
I know,
Okay.
I
So
know,
that
but
would
that might
be-
be something
yeah.
to bring
All right,
with
let's,
solar. So anyway, it's an idea.
down the end here. Okay, next item, public input. You can speak for 3 minutes on anything that doesn't appear on the agenda, and he's jumping for joy up here because now it's his time, so go.
Good evening. We'll tell you guys about a great concert that is a fundraiser for Hope City. It's going to be in 2 weeks on the 24th, Friday night. It's going to be out at the event center at the casino. The Rancheria has very generously donated the use of that. What I want to emphasize to you guys, these are not just local musicians. These literally are world-class musicians. They do sold-out concerts throughout other parts of the U.S. and Europe in big venues. It's incredibly fortunate for us to have them here in Middletown. Bob's going to play a little short video, and he only has the speakers over there. So if everybody be real quiet, I think you'll be able to hear it. Bob, go ahead and...
What time is it at?
It's going to be at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Anybody turn that light off?
You want to hit the light right there?
It's right there.
There you go.
That'll work.
Where is this going to be?
And this is when again?
25th.
Christmas.
It's March 20th. It's not Christmas. So March 24th, 7 o'clock. Where? At the event center.
Okay, so,
Time's up.
let's move on.
Bob,
So,
Bob,
repeat
go ahead and shut that off.
everything and all that?
So, it's going to be at the event center. It's going to be 2 weeks from tomorrow. The 24th is at 7 p.m. It's going to be posters are getting put up everywhere. You can go to Brown Paper Tickets. You can buy tickets online. It's only $15, but they're letting all this money go to Hope City. Please support it. Tell everybody that you know. We'd love to have a sellout, but it's going to be an incredible evening, and a lot of merchants are giving gifts. It's going to be a raffle, so it's a great time. You don't want to miss it. Thank you, Bob.
Down this, Randy, go ahead.
I just want to make an announcement. We've, as you know, most of you probably know that Winnock Ranch has changed hands, and it's a development company that has come in.
What is your name?
Randy Sternberg, sorry. So we're going to have an open house at the winery on April 29th. And we'll, at the Winnock Winery? April 29th. And we'll have the team there, everybody can talk, we'll have lunch, come at noon. And we're gonna try to put up a website so that we can get some public input, and we'll also keep everybody posted as far as times and dates. We've been going around talking about, we've talked to Bob, we've talked to Mo, and so we're kind of getting everybody on board, so. April 29th.
What time is the open house?
Noon.
Noon.
Okay, down this side, anybody else?
I'll just add on that. I did go out and meet the folks who went out there, and I would encourage everybody to go out and look at the project. What they're proposing out there is a game changer for South County. Whether or not that happens or not, there's a whole process they need to go through. But this is a large organization that's come here to look to develop some stuff out there on that ranch. It's been talked about for years. I would encourage anybody who has any curiosity or concern about that to be out there on the 29th, meet these folks, to understand exactly what they're talking about doing here. But I will tell you this much, in looking at it and meeting with these individuals, they're very serious about this project, and it's going to be a game changer for South County. It'll be a game changer for the entire county. It's an immense. I like the name that Bob gave it. You call it. What did you call it? Zeus. It's the Zeus Project of Lake County. So I encourage you to go out there and meet with those folks. Yes.
I've been in kind of around the fringes of that for a long time, and I can tell you that the people that are doing this project, if you look at their portfolio and their brochures, they do nothing but first-class stuff. And I've said for years, and you could probably get tired of hearing it, 3 projects have to be successful for South County: Gwinnett Langtree, Harbor Springs, and the casino. If those 3 things are very successful, we get a lot of jobs. So think about that on April 29th, noon. Take time to go listen. Don't come back in June and say, well, I don't know what the hell they're doing out there. Go in April and listen. I think you'll be pleased.
Okay, Beth.
So I'm Beth Rudiger. Well, you might as well look at my front and see my back. I'm Beth Rudiger. I'm with Middletown Area Merchants Association, and I'm going to segue right on to that, Harbor and Hot Springs being one of them. And I do have a letter here for business owners, so if we've got some business owners here in the crowd, we have a letter to send to the supervisors just asking that they keep in mind that we would like to get Harbin back up on its feet sooner rather than later for our economy here, because it's hurting all of our local businesses. I mean, everything is, but that's a big part of it. And then, so come see me if you want to sign that. Middletown Luncheon Club next Wednesday, noon, right here at the Senior Center. It's a great lunch. If you have not had lunch at the Senior Center yet, I highly recommend the experience. It's only $5 for Luncheon Club, and Walt Campbell is our speaker, so it should be funny. And then the other thing is, I also run Lake County Jazzercise, and we have a great initiative going this year. I said it last month, but I know you all weren't the same people here, so I'm saying it again. We are giving free Jazzercise classes all year long, unlimited Jazzercise to girls ages 16 to 21. It's a way to empower them, to get them moving. And I have little cards that tell you all the details and have the schedule. So if there's any girls that you have in your lives, I don't see any 16 to 21-year-old girls in here right now, I'd be happy to share a card with you. Thank you.
Okay, Marlene.
I would like to thank Mike Tabak for all the work that he's been doing cleaning up our town. And on that note, would like to suggest that we have a town cleanup soon and get a date set so that we can invite all the people that are in this room to help us clean up downtown. We do have, Earth Day is on April 22nd. I would suggest that day unless someone would like a different day.
Okay. So are you looking to bring this up at the agenda for next month and we discuss it, or what would you like to do?
Yes, I would like to
Clean up day.
get a day and
Set a
invite
day.
everyone to come and help us clean up downtown.
Okay. And we'll put it on the agenda for discussion next month. Next, down the road.
Thank you.
All 4
Yes,
of us will
Marty.
be there.
When I came in my office this morning, or today, I don't know who this is from, but there's March for Meals. It's for the Senior Center. It's on March 25th, Saturday. I don't know who brought it in, but I wanted to let people know that this is going on. And then on the same day at my store, I'm doing my customer appreciation and community appreciation day. I have a bounce house going. I have a lot of vendors showing up. We have food, raffle prizes, and some community stuff.
What day is it again?
These are both on Saturday, March 25th. This one I just got from this. I don't know who dropped it off at my office, but it was on my desk. So I don't know.
What is your store?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Lovey's Garden Supply.
Okay.
Okay, so right on the corner of Bush and 175. So we have raffle prizes. We have a lot of good stuff going on. It is a community family-based event.
And what time is that?
The 10 a.m. to 3:30. So we do have a bounce house, we're doing barbecue, and lots of other stuff.
Lisa Kaplan from Middletown Art Center.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So we are having an exhibition opening this Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. It's called Labor of Love. It's very beautiful. Come and join us, and it's free to the public. And we're also having a celebration of life memorial party for James Conlin, who passed less than a month ago, and also a celebration of the 2nd anniversary of MAC. We've been around for 2 years on the 24th of March. Come and join us for that. Music, dancing, it'll be lots of fun. That's it. Support your local art center. Come and take classes. We have scholarships available and work trade options.
What time on Saturday?
Saturday, the opening is 6 to 8 this Saturday, and the party on the 24th is 7 to 10.
Fletcher, you have comments?
Yes. May 20th this year will be the annual chili cook-off to benefit the senior citizens, senior center. It's interesting that we get so many people from around the area, probably because we give $1,000 to the first place winner for the chili and $500 for the first place for the salsa. So if you make chili or you make salsa and you think you do a good job, you got to come down and enter. It's a fun event, and we've raised almost $10,000 for the senior center over the last 2 years. That's net. That's not before expenses, but that's net. So we have to thank Calpine and Bannock and so many other people that have supported that. But keep in mind, May 20th, if you're interested, watch the math website and we'll have an announcement and entry forms, sponsor sheets, and all that. But May 20th, it will be the chili cook-off this year to benefit the senior center. Thank you.
Okay, down this side, any further comments? Okay, I'll come over to the back. Anybody in the back? No? Up this side?
Good.
Okay. Okay.
Brian Martin. So our staffing levels, one of the biggest challenges I have in taking office was staffing levels. I'm proud to announce that we are down to 1 funded vacancy, so that means I only have room for 1 more deputy sheriff. We also have a grant available to us at the Sheriff's Office for school resource officers in the county. Right now, Upper Lake High School has a school resource officer that's provided by the probation department. We provide one at Kelseyville High School. Clear Lake High School has a school resource officer from the police department, and Lower Lake High School has 2 school resource officers that come from Clear Lake PD. We're going to be giving a presentation to the school board in April, and if you want to weigh in on whether or not you think a school resource officer at Middletown High School would be a good thing, we'd certainly like to see you there and hear your input. There is a shared cost. The grant provides funding for part of the position, and there's also a match that the school district. So that's going to be one of the topics of conversation, is to make sure that's something that we could afford. Get him, Margaret.
It wasn't me.
Yes.
It wasn't me.
So look for that at the April school district meeting.
Brian, what does a school resource officer do?
School resource officer is going to be a deputy sheriff. They outreach, they take any incident reports that occur on the schools. It's somebody that participates in classes. They'll one-on-one, they patrol the campus. Anytime there's issues that are specific to the school, they're dedicated to those issues, and they have a presence there on campus. I know there's always issues around schools, whether it's kids, whether it's people hanging around the schools that shouldn't be there, and having that presence there makes sure that our kids are safe.
Right.
Yes.
Are those officers armed?
Yes.
How many hours? Is it like a full-time position?
Full-time job, 40 hours a week.
Wow.
Okay, we have both Supervisor Simons here and Supervisor Brown. Any comments, Mr. Brown?
I just have one. Most of you probably, maybe all of you, attended the town hall meeting that we had over at the middle school last month. That was the town hall meeting last month regarding the Calhoun project. And so far, we have 59 people that have signed up for the waiting list. So we have quite a few. But if you know anybody, just encourage them to either contact me directly, or they can they can sign up on the waiting list at hammersforhope.org, and we can get them through the process. And it's all about getting them into a new home with a loan for that new construction. So we're ready to go within the next couple of weeks, and we're just vetting through the applications now. So if you have anybody at all that could be interested in a home built by Hope City or by their own contractor, actually, we have that money available.
Supervisor Suss?
Just a couple things. One announcement. Last Tuesday, I think it was last Tuesday, the first home was done by Hope City. I know some of the folks in the room here over there. Orville Young got his home over on, behind Hardester's there. And I know that those are going to be happening a lot more often right now. I know there are 3 or 4 that are ready to be completed in the next few weeks. And then once they get their dormitory going, they'll really be knocking those things out. So it's really neat. If you see something in the paper, you'll see the facilities that these guys are building. They're beautiful little homes, and they're getting people back into them. So, all the time, like I say, some people promise you the world and don't come through with it. But this group has come to our community and is rebuilding it one home at a time, and they're doing exactly what they said they'd do. So, if you have a chance to support them, please do that.
Do you know what the update with the dormitory is over by the arena?
I know they got the beams up. Some beams are going on. I don't have a finish date. Hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks. I know they're working very hard on it. Melissa might have an idea a little bit more. I wasn't able.
I talked to Kevin today, maybe 3 weeks.
Okay, excellent. Well, so I'll double that, 6 to 8 weeks. Right now, the way things are going. I do want to let you know, my cell phone is out there, 272-3368. I do my best to make myself available. And believe me, I understand how important Harbin is. So write those letters and we'll just reiterate to me once again how important they are. So I do understand that. That's all I have.
Okay, and then I'll finish it with one last quick thing. 2 things, actually, real quick. Moke has been available to everybody. I can tell you that lately. I've had several people approach me, and he's been open to talking to them. So wonderful job starting out. I know it's good. Okay, the next thing, I've been approached too about contacting us and that. Of course, we're working on, after the fire, a lot of things got lost, so we're getting our act straightened out a little bit. But one thing, you can always contact anybody on this board by going to that math town hall, and then in the subject line, if you want to address it to an individual, you can address it to an individual. But that's the best way. We are working on clearing it up on the sites there with phone numbers and that too. So anyways, I just want to make that. Okay, if there's no further public comment, I'll close it. And now to cannabis. Bob, you're on. You want a mic or not?
Nah, I'll try.
All right.
Do you want lights?
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll come on a second. Good evening. Bob Esroy, Community Development Director.
I don't care what he says. Here you go.
All right. The county has been working for the last 5 or 6 months on developing a, of course it always shows the wrong slide when you want to do this, on a ordinance to regulate the use of cannabis in Lake County.
Real quick, there are some maps in the back, about 10 of them, so you might have to share them about the grow areas. So If you want to grab one, the shaded areas are the non-grow areas, just so you know.
The shaded areas are
Proposed non-grow at this point, right, Bob?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
What I want to do tonight is give you an overview of what the current law is. Because there's a little bit of misunderstanding what is currently allowed and not allowed. I want to talk about the goals and objectives that we've been working toward in trying to regulate cannabis. Talk about the various licenses that are involved. And the rest of this is what the staff and Planning Commission have developed as ideas. The Board of Supervisors have had 2 meetings, workshops, in reviewing this. They have another one scheduled in 2 weeks. They're very seriously looking at and considering all the public comment. We've been giving them stacks of emails and documents, letters that we've received. And we'll be getting some direction on how to proceed from the Board of Supervisors. So what we'll be talking about here is not official county position or county policy. It is what we are recommending, what we're considering. But as I say in the beginning of all these presentations, don't make any investments based on what you see here. This is not the final law. And until the Board of Supervisors make a decision, this is just for planning and discussion purposes. Okay. The common vision of cannabis is what we see here. Illegal activities. And this is actually very close by where they went in, graded the area, dug it out, put a dam in, and you can see the water that was collected there. This is the dam eroding away. Just really serious environmental impacts. These are a grow house that our code enforcement officers went into, where they have all sorts of illegal electrical connections, a very serious fire hazard, chemicals, fertilizers, all sorts of things stacked in the rooms, extensive lights and a lot of electricity use and things like that. Now, that is the common vision, and that's really what we've been dealing with for the last several years in the county and dealing with cannabis. Now, in the industry, there are best practices, and if you just go onto YouTube and you can look at some videos of what various operations does. This happens to be in a business down in Santa Rosa called Cannacraft. They produce medical marijuana. This is actually in an old medical equipment manufacturing. They have clean rooms. This is actually manufacturing the equipment to process marijuana. This is their actual cultivation, their processing facilities. This is a lab, and I will tell you that the equipment in that lab is some of the most expensive equipment you'll ever see. They're measuring it down almost to parts per trillion in dealing with things. And this is a sample. They have 6 or 7 lines of medical cannabis that they sell. Their facility, one of their retail facilities, is over in Hopland, and so you can see what kind of those facilities are. When we went through the lab, one of the things they pointed out is that almost 80% of the crop that is brought into them to be processed is rejected because of pesticides and other things. And so they're really very serious about looking at this. So we have this range of things that we can consider. These best practices, and how do we enforce those, and how do we also deal with the environmental impacts of the illegal activities, the inappropriate activities. Medical cannabis, the Compassionate Use Act of 1996 was approved by the voters, and it allows for the use of marijuana for medical purposes. AB 266 is the Regulatory and Safety Act, was approved by the governor in 2015. And that is a system of licenses for the cultivation, manufacturing, testing, distribution, dispensaries, and transportation of medical marijuana. The state licensing program is scheduled to go into effect January 1st, 2018. Everybody's debating whether or not the state will be ready, but we're hearing a lot of activities coming out of Sacramento. A lot of regulations, draft regulations are starting to show up. and so that they will be going forward. Under this act, nobody can get a state license without getting a local permit first. We control. We don't issue them a permit, they cannot get a state license. And so that, that is a very important part of this, is that the local government, the local jurisdiction, has the say of what can be done. Prop 64 that was passed this past year expands the use of cannabis. And the purpose was to establish a comprehensive system to legalize, control, regulate the cultivation, processing, manufacturing, distribution, testing, and sale for the use of adults 21 years or older, and to provide for a taxation of that. And so there's an extensive taxation program for the state to generate revenues. The Adult Act, one allows local government to enact additional local requirements. Again, there's nothing in the state law that prohibits us from regulating. Some counties, some cities have prohibited cannabis operations. Others have been wide open, and then there's a range of in between. Some people have set up a total cannabis ordinance process. Others use a zoning process and different ways of doing it. But the important thing is that, again, there's that local control. This law, though, is slightly different. You can get a state license without the local permit, but you can't operate without the local permit. So it's a little bit different than on the medical side. We are allowed to ban the non-medical. We're allowed to reasonably regulate the use of marijuana through zoning and other ordinances. So what under this personal use, everybody has the right to grow 6 plants at their premise. And so your neighbor can start growing marijuana today. And the blue area is essentially all our residential districts. So, the cultivation, the personal use of marijuana can occur anywhere in that area. Now, it is limited to 6 plants. Under our current zoning, you're allowed to have outdoor cultivation on an acre or more. Other than that, it has to be indoor. So one of the things we're looking at in the new ordinance is how do we regulate the use of, or the cultivation of marijuana? Where do we require that? What kind of restrictions do we put on it? If the state attorney general finds that marijuana is a legal activity, we cannot prohibit the outdoor cultivation of marijuana. Now, that's a little funny because you would think that means, oh, just growing outdoors. Well, there is the outdoor in a greenhouse. When you're growing in a greenhouse, it's considered outdoors. So you could say, okay, we'd have to restrict it to being within an enclosed structure. We could restrict it by saying it has to be in a backyard and certain setbacks and things. But we cannot, if the Attorney General finds that it's a legal thing, we cannot prohibit outdoor cultivation of marijuana. Article 72, that's in our zoning code. This is our current zoning requirements. It addresses medical cannabis only. We do not address the personal use because that was not in effect at that time. Qualified patients and primary caregivers. You can form medical cannabis cooperatives. And so a group of people can get together to grow marijuana. But in order to do that, it has to be on the premise owned by one of the members of the co-op. You have to be either a qualified patient, or a primary caregiver. Outdoor cultivation is prohibited within the community growth boundaries, and any parcel that is 1 acre or smaller outside the community growth boundaries. So within Middletown community growth boundaries, you cannot grow the medical cannabis. If you're outside, it has to be on 1 acre or more.
Is there a plant limitation under Article 72 currently with what you just read?
The plant limitation is 6 mature plants, 14 immature plants. Okay, outdoor cultivation, whether outside or inside, cannot exceed 6 and 12. That answers your question. Outdoor cultivation must be completely screened from the public view by a solid fence at least 6 feet tall or no more than 8 feet tall. And then your plant has to be cut. so it doesn't exceed the height of the fence. And basically, it's a public nuisance. You don't want an attraction where somebody will see, okay, it's growing, let me harvest it, let me cut it and take it. Outdoor cultivation cannot be conducted within 1,000 feet of any public elementary school, middle or high school, cannot be within 1,000 feet of a park with playground equipment, cannot be 1,000 feet of a drug, alcohol, rehabilitation facility, the child daycare, church and youth-oriented facilities. So within our zoning ordinance, those restrictions exist. The collectives that I was talking about, they are also limited to 48 plants, mature plants, or 72 immature plants. Again, they have to be at least 20 acres and have to be within the agricultural zoning district. These also have to be fenced with a secure lock on them and things like that. So currently we do allow in the ag zoning 48 plants, 72 plants. One of the problems that the staff is having is the way this was set up, there is no permit involved. So I don't know how many are acting legally right now. And that's one of the things that we're recommending is that we amend this ordinance so that we can get a process to get and identify who is actually operating legally and meeting all the requirements. And that allows us to go with code enforcement to make sure that then we can enforce the law. The indoor cultivation, so if you're going to grow in a house or something, it cannot exceed 100 square feet. You cannot have more than 1,200 watts of electrical, the lighting. Can only occur within the legal structure. It meets the definition of indoors and it applies to all the code requirements. The structure shall be ventilated to control the odor, cannot create any odor, humidity, or mold problems. So again, people are allowed today to grow in the house 100 square feet. And that's a very difficult thing, again, of regulating. We don't know who's doing that. And so one of the aspects we're looking at is a permitting system that requires people to come and pull a building permit so that we can make sure that this is done properly. Proposition C will also pass in November. It places a tax on cannabis cultivation. It's a $1 per square foot for outdoor grows, $2 per square foot for mixed light. And a mixed light is where you have natural light and it's also supplemented by artificial light. Outdoor, there's no supplemental, it's all natural light. And then finally, the $3 per square foot for indoor, and indoor is 100% artificial light. Basically, how you define the different areas. We project an annual revenue of that of about $8 million. And of course, that depends on a lot of factors, how many permits are issued, what type of permits are issued, what the sizes are. But that's the current, that was what also passed by the voters in November.
Bob,
Yeah.
is that 8 million for Lake County? Or
That's 8 million in Lake County.
Okay.
Now, that does not include changes in property taxes because the value of the lands may go up. It does not include sales tax, when people are selling, buying materials and things. It's strictly just what the Proposition C would generate.
Thank you.
Environmental considerations. There's a lot of environmental considerations. The impact on water diversion and impact on groundwater, surface and groundwater discharges. The traditional farmers are very concerned that they have all sorts of requirements they have to meet. They want to make sure that the cannabis growing also have to meet that. There's a concern about the generation of odor, erosion problems, pesticides, hazardous material. Cannabis is traditionally, in many areas, grown in a pot or a bag. They create their own soil. But it's not, it has to be recycled. It has to be disposed of or something. And so there's a real concern. We don't want that just dumped on the side of the road. And so how do you manage that? So that's just, that's just a cut of some of the environmental considerations as you go forward. Of course, there's a lot of economic considerations. There's related industries, soil development, soil disposal, security systems, plumbing, electrical contractors, mold prevention, mold eradication, vehicle maintenance, harvesting. So there's a lot of associated businesses with this. And it's, don't think of it just as someone cultivating, that there are spin-offs and secondary industries that support this. One of the things that came up with a workshop recently was the concept that because of the regulatory requirements that a good business will get into to be a consultant, to walk somebody through the permitting process, because it will be rather extensive. So that's an example of businesses. There will be changes in property values. Some places the property values are going to go up. We have anecdotal information that that's already occurring. People are buying up land and paying top dollar for it. But then there's loss of property values, where that's illegal grows, homes being infected by mold. If a home is infected by mold, it's usually the cost of eliminating that is more than the value of the home, so the home can't be sold, the home deteriorates, the surrounding properties values are brought down, and so there's that negative impact. Protecting other economic sectors such as natural resources, resource base such as traditional agriculture and adjacent uses. Traditional agriculture is very concerned that if someone came in and say put a marijuana cultivation in a pear orchard, that they would not maintain the pear orchard, creating pests which would go then to adjacent orchards and cause problems for them. And so it's very important how you manage the whole agricultural aspect of it. That's one of the concerns. Then of course there's leveraging businesses and workforce for other economic development opportunities. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question. Are we still talking about the current law and medical marijuana, or have we switched to something?
We're starting the transition. That these are some of the concerns as you go forward that you need to think about. But it's really under the current law, we still have these concerns that we're not fully addressing. Okay. Social considerations. We need to create a culture of responsible marijuana use. And that's a real serious problem. When you look at what's happened in Colorado or Washington and other places, there's anecdotal information that there's an increased use by children or by minors of marijuana. So how do you make the decisions to make the right decisions? Giving the skills to make responsible decisions. Minimizing attractive nuisance. And again, if you have a grow along a street, say somebody, the way you walk to a park and you see marijuana growing, there's that attractive nuisance, like, hey, let me go get some of that. Let me go harvest some of that. And so how do you minimize that attractive nuisance? There's a need providing services to address addiction. In a lot of the states that have gone with the lottery, they're spending a lot of money on gambling addiction. And a lot of that lottery money is being diverted to that. You have the same issue with marijuana and drug use. There are people that will become addicted to marijuana or then maybe the harder drugs. And how do you address that? And so it's something you just can't ignore, that it has to be addressed. And also it's important to recognize that society is divided on this issue. While Prop 64 did pass in the county, there were people that voted against it. There are people that are fundamentally opposed to marijuana, and you have got to recognize that. And then there are other people that are absolutely convinced that they have to have the marijuana for their medical conditions. And so society is very divided on this, and so we have got to find that balance. Our goals is to protect the health, safety, and general welfare of the county. That's our number one goal. We want to bring on ongoing economic activities of the current growers into compliance with state and local law through an expanded permitting structure. Bring in, I'm not going to paint a rosy picture here that by passing this, everybody's going to come and get a permit. No. In Colorado, the black market is still flourishing. You're not going to solve every problem with this licensing program. And you've got to recognize that, and there's a cost to that. You got to maximize economic opportunities and the benefits of the new business model. As I showed you the best practices, there are industries that pay good money for trained people. There is a demand for the medical, so there is a possibility for that new business model. But you have to understand, you're not going to get everybody into this. So what are the objectives? we want to talk about co-locating indoor nurseries, manufacturing, testing, distribution, and transportation into a few sites. We don't want, what we're trying to say, we don't want those scattered all over the county. Let's create what we're going to call cannabis hubs and try to locate these in common areas so that we're not spreading it out everywhere. By co-locating, they can share facilities, they can share security, and there's a positive aspect to that. We want to make sure that there's strong denial and revocation procedures. And what we're looking at is when you have to be qualified to get an application. And there'll be a series of things that you have to meet. Second, there'll be a background check, not only for the people applying for the permit, but all the people that work at the site, whether it's a manufacturing site or a cultivation site. This is not a pie in the sky. This is what the gambling industry does. You know, this is something that is, there's a model that we can use to make sure we do that. If you buy, we're talking about an annual permit with an annual renewal and an annual inspection. If you fail your inspection, you don't get your next permit. And we could extend that even, but every year have an annual inspection. And if you fail the inspection, you lose your permit. And that's a strong economic incentive to ensure compliance. Permits are not assignable, and they don't run with the land. You have to come in, you're the qualified person, you have to meet the standards, you get the permit. It's for a specific location, for a specific condition. Then you can't then sell it on the market to somebody else to come in. Because we want to make sure we got the right background checks and things. So at the same time, you can't put your property up for sale and say, hey, we got a marijuana permit, you can get it. So it's very restrictive. This is a list of all the licenses that the state of California, in their infinite wisdom, has come up with. There's actually 38 different licenses. And I will tell you, trying to write an ordinance to address this has been a nightmare. And the problem is that the state is already looking at changing them. And so this is a moving target. What I want to emphasize is what we come up with now is something that will continue to evolve for the next 5 or 10 years. Don't assume whatever we have is going to be the final version, because the industry is changing and maturing. The state of California regulations are maturing and changing. Our experience, our capabilities will change. And so this will be a continuous process for improvement. But just gives you an idea of all the different licenses that are involved with the process. We have come up with a list of areas that we want to exclude the commercial cultivation. Again, personal use, medical use, I can't exclude. That's state law. But commercial, so what we're saying is within the community growth boundaries, within the water district service areas, within the incorporated areas and the rancherias, and then a half-mile buffer around those. And what we're saying is that we don't want cultivation right up to the edge, where somebody happens to live on the edge. They have to put up with it. Now that is under a lot of discussion. A lot of people are saying it should be 1,000 feet. More people are saying it should be 0. And so that is one of the areas that there's a lot of discussion about what those buffers should be. It could be a mile. I mean, we have that flexibility of making the determination of what kind of buffer, if any, there should be. We're also talking within the SOS. This is up on the north shore of the lake. We have paper subdivisions that are causing all sorts of problems. No marijuana cultivation up there. The public lands, no cultivation. So we have a rather large area of the county that we'd say no commercial cultivation. It has also been requested by Supervisor Brown that we prohibit the marijuana cultivation and activities within District 5. And that's certainly a possibility of doing that. The Board of Supervisors have a great deal of flexibility when it comes to the legislative matter of making determinations of zoning districts. And so that is something that the board will be considering. How do we deal with agriculture? And that's been a challenge, the traditional agriculture. We first started out looking at the prime agricultural soils. Because cannabis can grow in a bag or in a pot, they don't need a native soil. Whereas the traditional agriculture requires the native soil. So, okay, well, I thought this would be a great place to start. Unfortunately, in 2008, our general plan was changed. It changed it from the prime agricultural soils the primarily agricultural lands. And this is a map of those primarily agricultural lands. The intent was, as explained to me, it was to pick up some of the vineyard areas. Unfortunately,
Can you tell me the green versus the white? What's
okay, the green is where the primary agricultural areas are. The white is not part of that. Okay. So, now, so the problem from a staff perspective is the county made a conscious decision going from soils to primarily agricultural lands. So the soils was rejected, so I need to, and we have to be consistent with the general plan. So this is a part of it. What we're taking a look at, one of the comments that we've received that makes it more of a challenge of how we address it is the impact of cannabis on the grape growers. We have definite examples of where the fires adversely affected the grapes. The smoke tainted the grapes. Some people were not even allowed to sell the grapes. Because of the odor and the tannin coming off the marijuana, there is concern that it may adversely affect the grapes. I will tell you though, I cannot find anything in the literature to support that or reject it. I mean, it's just one of those things that there's anecdotal information, but no hard facts. So what we thought was, okay, where are the prime vineyard areas within the county? So we look at the AVAs. We have the North Coast AVA, which is all this area. We have the Clear Lake AVA, Benmore Valley, Big Valley, Kelsey Bench, High Valley, Red Hills, and Gannock. So we thought, okay, what if we restrict it there? But so we come up with this, excluding outdoor cultivation in those areas. But when we did that, Benmore Valley is essentially owned by one person. They have removed most of the grapes. They're not interested in being an AVA. So, and then the Clear Lake AVA, the density of vineyards actually within that area is very low when you look at it in total. So we came up and said, okay, let's focus on the five primary AVAs. So the concept is that within these areas that we would allow on a 20-acre parcel or greater greenhouses where it is in a structure that can, the filter, and so that the odor doesn't escape. And actually for the cannabis, it also, any pesticide drip from adjacent agricultural uses doesn't contaminate their crop. Remember I told you 80% was rejected, so there's an important relationship there.
What's that?
So that would be a way of addressing cannabis within these areas. And this is an example of the type of equipment they can use. There's all sorts of different equipment, but there is technology on the market today. And it's really interesting. I used to buy like seed catalogs, and you get your seed catalogs for vegetables or flowers. You now buy catalogs for cannabis. I mean, it has everything in it. And it's amazing how the market has changed. Then in the other area, the dark green areas, we would allow other cultivation of cannabis. Now, again, if District 5 was excluded, this whole area in here would not be colored. And so that's one of the options that is being considered. Cultivation, again, same as what we have, 1,000 feet from the private schools, grade 1 through 12, developed parks, alcohol, child care, and church-oriented. State law is 600 feet, but because we already have 1,000 feet, that's what we're recommending, is we stay with the 1,000-foot setback. Okay, 1C, MC, 1C is what they call a cottage industry cultivation. MC stands for medical cannabis, and you'll see NM because of non-medical. We would allow, and these only have, help me, the 1C is 25 plants?
Correct.
25 plants, thank you. And so it's 25 plants. We'd allow those on a 5-acre tract and require them to come in and get a development permit and building permits.
I think it's a 2,500 square foot canopy.
2,500 square foot canopy. But that's the one that does have a plant restriction.
Correct.
Okay. There are what's called specialty and small permits, both outdoor, mixed light, and indoor. there we're saying 20 acre minimum and a development permit and a building permit. Now, development permit, which, as I mentioned last month, we're changing our zoning ordinance. That would be heard by a hearing officer. The larger ones, and these are get up to the 3,000 square feet cultivation area. Again, minimum 20 acres, and actually that should be a use permit and a building permit. That would go to the planning commission because of the larger size of it. Dispensaries, right now we're suggesting that they would be within the C1, C2, and C3 zoning districts. They're very limited on the number of those. We're also talking about restricting the number of dispensaries in retail. Under state law, we have to look at the concentration of those. Up in Clear Lake, we have a large concentration existing. So, and the district supervisor district there would probably not have any additional retailer distributors, and they would be around the rest of this county. And again, this is a decision that the board will need to make, possibly 2 per district. But we're not talking about on every street corner. That's one of the things Denver learned, that you don't want to leave it wide open. In fact, they now have a cap, and you have to go through a lottery to get a permit. And so that's one of the things we've learned from public places. Manufacturing, testing, and distribution. This is a picture of the Canacraft. This is what the facility can look like. Driving through, this is in an office park, you wouldn't know that they're manufacturing cannabis in here. There's no signs indicating that there's cannabis. We're talking about within our planned development commercial and our planned industrial parks, so that we can control the design of it, architectural designs, security requirements, water management. All those will be under strict control, rather than just an industrial area where somebody just pop up something. We want to have real strict controls. Located in cannabis hubs, we want to consolidate these and not have them spread over. Now, there is one exception. State law allows somebody with a cultivation permit to get a manufacturing permit for the manufacturing of their crop. And so there would be an opportunity, but this would be more of where they are working with multiple cultivators to manufacture. There would be the use permit, again, going to the planning commission for approval, as well as building permits. So in terms of the cannabis hub, what we'll be talking about is along 20, 29, and 53. We don't want it scattered all throughout the county. We want it near the highways, because there'll be a lot of traffic in and out. We don't want to spread them all over the place. And again, if District 5 was excluded, that would exclude that area also. So, but what we're trying to do is focus them on certain areas. This happens to be a map of the parcels that are adjacent to the roads to show where these possibly may occur. Use standards. There's going to be all sorts of standards. And so there's minimum lot size, setback requirements, height requirements, security requirements, water supply, water management. There will be all sorts of minimum standards for each one they have to meet. We also then have performance standards that you'll have to comply with. What we're proposing is a grading, a scale system, where we'll have a minimum scale, a minimum score, and if you do more, you get a higher score. We'll have a minimum that you have to meet. What we're proposing is that we rank them and go after the best of the applications. We don't want to waste our time dealing with people that have an idea and might want to do it and not investing a lot of money. We want those that are willing to invest the time and effort to do that. That's the concept we're going after. Now, there's some things I want to emphasize is, for example, the property management. That gets into that issue with the pears I was talking about. What we want is not just the 1 acre area that might be where the cultivation is, but your full 20 acres or more. We want to know how you're going to manage the entire property. So if you have pears or walnuts or a vineyard on it, we want to understand how that it's all related, so that we don't have conflicts. In the high-risk fire areas, we want to know how you're going to manage the land for fires. We want to make sure that it's incorporated into the total program. Water supply, water use. One of the things that actually some of the growers are actually doing today in the county is they use bladders. They'll collect the water in the winter. Right now they got plenty of water. They collect the water, store it in bladders, and then use it in the dry season. But they also work with CAL FIRE. So if there's a fire, they can then access that water as part of their fire protection. And those are the types of things that we want to consider. That it's more of an integrated approach to dealing with it. Energy use, want to encourage like solar energy. I want to promote organic farming and things. So we create these standards and then score them and go forward. So the cultivation, the permitting process will be a two-step process. We encourage people to come in. There will be a maybe 30-day window to apply. You give us your conceptual plan, you pay a fee. There's no sufficiency review. We take what you have, we score it, rank it, and those that go above a certain score, we then proceed to the second step in rank order. So we take the best and go down. The second step would be a specific plan where we go through all the environmental evaluation, we do the CEQA and the code evaluation, the findings, and take it to the hearing officer or to the planning commission. And so this is where you go into the detail and make sure that they comply. Manufacturing, testing, distribution, transportation, micro businesses, we follow the normal zoning process. We're not creating a whole new business. Or a whole new licensing. We'll follow the zoning. This is an exception. There are some times where it is part of the cultivation permit, and that will be that second step that we go through the evaluation of those. And as I said, dispensary and retail, limited number of permits. So the procedure. The person and entry shall not cultivate marijuana without obtaining the state license first. That's state law. Just because you got our permit doesn't mean you can operate. You got to get the state license. Protection of minors. All sorts of criteria on how to protect minors. Minors cannot come on the site. It has to be a secured site. You can't sell to minors. You can't advertise to minors. There's a whole long list of activities. Notification of the state if you revoke a permit, so that they can revoke their permit and make sure it's eliminated. Records. We want to make sure that there's that record. The state's requiring all sorts of records. We want to be able to review those records as part of our annual review. Many permits will have an annual cap. We cannot process an unlimited number of permits. And so we'll be looking at eliminating the number that we process. Background checks. Everybody that will have a background check. Not just the operator, not just the owner, but everybody on the property. We want to make sure there's a background check. And then minimum qualifications to get a permit. The abatement and enforcement right now is the same as Article 72. We'll be working with the sheriff very closely with this, the DA, and county council on strengthening this as much as possible. As I showed you at the beginning of the adverse impacts, we want to make sure that we have strong language to go after those type of problems. Path forward, amend 72. We need to amend our general plan. We're working on the staffing requirements, the phasing, and we're now back to the board for their direction. And that's the workshops they've been holding. Once we get that direction, and if the direction is to move forward, we'll go back to the planning commission. We'll finalize the final version of the ordinance. We're proposing at this time a 90-day review period. And during that 90 days, we'll hold workshops, we'll hold public meetings, so that we can get everybody's input, and so that when we finally take it forward, we'll have everybody have a chance to review it. We'll develop budget amendments to be considered in September. Then amend the plan, adopt the ordinance, present the amendments to the Planning Commission for recommendations, go to the Board of Supervisors, develop the permitting process. The ASILA is the CYCOPS program I talked about last month, our permitting system. We got to train our staff, hire the staff, train them. We got a marketing program, and the marketing is to inform the public of what the requirements are. It's not that we're promoting marijuana, we're marketing what the requirements are. And then initial phase one, and hopefully we've anticipated everything. So that's in a real quick overview of what we're doing. And again, I want to emphasize what we've talked about here. Our recommendations go into the board will be giving us direction. It could be a completely different direction. I'm not going to predict what the direction is, but that's what we're recommending at this time. Yes, ma'am.
When you're talking about hiring staff, what what is the projection for that? Because obviously you're going to need extra staff because there's not enough staff to begin with.
Again, it depends on what the board of supervisors decide. We have laid out a budget of 2 additional planners and the number of permits that they can operate, up to 6 planners and how many permits they can operate, process, and what the financial implications are in terms of the revenues and expenses, Proposition C, and what those might be. It again depends on what the board's direction is, of what kind of staffing would be. But the intent is not to use our current staff. We got processing, Clayton Fire, Valley Fire, those are our priorities. Yes, sir.
A couple real quick ones that I heard. First of all, if you're going to make money on this, you probably need to earmark money, not just throw the general fund, earmark money to pay the people who are doing it. Second of all is devil's spotter. You can't grow it here, can't grow it here. You just can't make this, like you can't eliminate a whole district. They can take their lumps along with the rest of us. Unless they come up with a reason why you can't. But it's a county ordinance, that means all 5 districts. Everybody gets it.
Or nobody.
Or nobody gets it. However, if you are going to be allowing permits, I live about a half a mile off the county road on a really dirt, bumpy, paved road or unpaved road. If you're going to allow people out there to have these collectors, I want my road paved, so that needs to come up in there. We need to mitigate the impacts on the private people that are out in the boonies where it is allowed. So it's either going to, there's a few things in there that really need to be addressed.
Great. On your first point, the Board of Supervisors have adopted a fee schedule and will amend it specifically for cannabis, but it's basically already set up that the applicant will come in and the amount of time we spend on the application, they will be charged that time. There will be an initial fee, which is our average cost, and anything over that, we charge them $95 an hour on a quarter-hour basis. So that's the revenue change.
I understand that. When you get that money, where does it go?
The money is to pay the cost of the staff.
And then it needs to be stuff set aside for the actual field enforcement.
Okay,
just
Hang on a second.
very quickly, fees can only be charged to cover the actual costs. The taxes are what will generate the revenue, hopefully, to deal with those.
Somewhere in there that has to be, you can have all the laws you want, but if you're not paying anybody to enforce them.
All right, one of the things that the board has done with the new fee ordinance is that we do have a compliance monitoring fee. So the annual inspection, they will pay for that annual inspection for us to go out to make sure that they're doing it. Now, the illegal ones, the ones that are not under the permitting system, I agree with the sheriff, that's a decision of the board, how to take the tax money, and they can assign that to the sheriff or a code enforcement to address that issue. So your comment on the road, that's why we're talking about performance standards and what the requirements are. And that your input would be very helpful of what those kind of things that we should consider. Yes, sir.
Everything from the Napa County line, basically, I think on the Highway 29 corridor to Middletown, is considered scenic Lake County, where we want to impress people by coming into the county. Are we going to allow this to happen in that area? Is that what we're going to start projecting instead of some kind of new Napa Valley? Because on one side I hear you say that 29 corridor is going to be, we want to keep it close to the highway so you can police it, but the other side is,
Right. The things that we're showing along the highway were the cannabis hubs. So we're talking about office parks, business parks, with architectural standards and things. So, and I don't think that is going to be necessarily negative. When we're talking about the cultivation, you also have to understand we're talking about really strict size limitations. We're talking 3,000 square feet on 20 acres of land. We're talking about setbacks. We're talking about visual buffers. So it's not going to be a situation where you're going to drive down the road and you're just going to see continuous marijuana. It's not going to look like a vineyard.
But if you have the fence limitations, let's say, like out where I live, there's 1 acre power system, up and down Highway 29, everybody's got 1 acre. And are we gonna have them put up a fence? Now that you can't see the cultivation, you see a fence?
All right, if you remember, the minimum cultivation site for commercial is 5 acres. So areas where there's 1 acre, there will be no commercial cultivation.
Okay, so if there's a big plant right by Highway 29 coming into the county, that's what we're gonna project as scenic Lake County.
Well, when you say a big plant,
Well, if we got 6 plants sitting by the side of it,
all right,
sitting on. by the
6
side of the road.
plants, and that's why we're working on the standards for personal use, that those will be within a structure or, and with a fence, and so that you're not gonna see plants just growing on the side of the road. That's the whole purpose. And things like requiring them to be in the backyard, so they're not in the front yard. So we are, you know, what we're working toward is coming up with those kind of standards.
I have a question. We're looking at just plots of land with plants growing. Say the grapes. Okay? That's not the issue for me. Growing marijuana is not an issue. It's what happens surrounding that marijuana growth, from them contaminating our ranch to gunfire out on Grange Road. It's the people connected with marijuana and illegal, but that's not going to eliminate that. So for me, it's the personnel and the things that surround marijuana growing that's an issue with me. How are we going to handle that? Can you handle that?
What I will say is that not everybody that grows marijuana is engaged in those activities.
No,
So,
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. The people that grow marijuana they do not do all of the marijuana growth.
Right.
They're the owner, and maybe they own 15 plots, and they are not the ones that cause the trouble. The people that come up here to work, and I can tell you, at the restaurant, we see them every year, okay? They're the ones that cause the trouble, not the growers, not the guys that are in charge of them. They hire people, and you know, and it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
Yep. Well, I would say there's other industries where there are small percentages of people that cause problems as well. Whether or not we can handle it, that'll be to be determined, I guess. I don't know what it's going to look like.
Is there an
2 or 3
escape
years.
clause?
Well,
Let's say
take
it
it back to the
doesn't work in
voters.
5 years.
You can take it back to the voters.
No, this can be reevaluated at any time. This ordinance can. It's
The
not
voters are
constitutional.
not going to have only input.
Some of the things that we're talking
They're
about,
going to make the
some of the
decision.
things that we're talking about the 6 plants. That's going to happen. The state law allows for the 6 plants. That's not going to be subject to the regulatory control of the county.
I understand
It's the
that.
commercial grows are what we're talking about here. What I will tell you is that I don't know, as Mr. Massarelli said, I don't know how many people are in compliance, but I do know of a couple that are in compliance with what the current Article 72. I'll use the example of Rancho de la Fuente. We don't get calls for service out there. They're in compliance with it. They have their setbacks. They're fenced off. They run their operation out there, and we don't have the problems out there. The ones that we do have the problems with are the ones that are completely operating outside the law, that don't care about the environment. They bring in firearms. They bring in unsavory people to process this. They tear up people's land and they leave it. Those are the ones that we continue to have problems with. What I will tell you is that there are people out there that are willing to grow marijuana responsibly, and I think it's important to give them an avenue to be able to do that.
My question relates somewhat to this and your presentation, Bob. When you were listing some of the different qualifications, and you talked about background checks and you talked about qualification. And I sat through some hearings over in one of the other counties where they're already doing this, and some of the permits were turned down and people were appealing and so forth. So here's my question. Does the property owner have to pass the background checks and be qualified, or can an individual be able to say, I have a clean, history, I've never been in trouble, I'm going to run this, but so-and-so owns the land, and I'm leasing it or I'm managing it for him. Has that been determined yet?
Yes and no. And again, this is one of the craziness about the state law. Medical marijuana, only the property owner can apply and be the holder of the permit. Under the adult use, an applicant, which does not have to be the property owner, but it would require the approval and acknowledgement by the property owner. And so, you know, that's what we have to work around, is the way the state law is currently set up. Yes, ma'am.
So you were talking about doing background checks for employees, and Fletcher, you were talking about having concerns about how the employees act now. Wouldn't having background check on permitted people kind of help that out?
Okay, the permitted people are not causing the problem.
Right.
It's the illegal ones, and that's what Fletcher is alluding to.
But that's happening now, but if this goes forth, it seems like then at least the people who are permitted, their employees are gonna have the background check, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea is that once you legalize the grows, then all the bad guys are gonna go away? Is that the
that's
idea?
not, nobody's saying that. But it's right now, we don't have any way to determine. I don't have a way to determine whether or not somebody's in compliance because we don't have a process for them to go through. If there's a process that's in place, somebody can get a permit, somebody can go through the process, get their employees licensed, they can show that they're doing that, I know this person's following the rules that are established. Whether or not you think it's a good idea, that'll continue to be a subject of debate for probably forever.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
And
What I need to do is work with what the law allows me. People that don't go through that process, that don't have permits for their land, for their businesses, for their employees and all that, that makes it a whole lot easier when I'm deciding where to allocate my resources.
Can I ask one question? Somebody said a minute ago that the voters will have a say. As I understand it, the voters have no say in it. The Board of Supervisors are gonna make the decision
As far as
whether or
zoning,
not, huh?
As far as zoning goes, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna make the decision. We're not gonna get a vote, other than our input to our local representatives. But the
I'm saying as
voters,
far as the legalization of marijuana, the voters have a say on that.
Right.
it's already been done.
Yeah.
But for our area,
Mm-hmm.
he has his opinion. He's gonna try to get his whole district to lead it. I understand that.
Yep.
You know, but, so we're not gonna get a vote on it. We're just gonna be able to give input to our supervisors that we either do or do not want legalized marijuana to be grown
Right.
for recreational purposes in our area. Period. Is that true?
Yeah. As of now,
Okay,
yeah.
that's true.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. If the property owner is applying for the permit, do they have to actually live in the county, or can they live like in, I don't know, Hawaii or wherever, and have property here and apply for permits?
I'm gonna have to look into that. That's a
For
different
state
version.
licensing, they do not have to be residents.
They grow grapes.
Yeah, and most of that property, it's been my experience, and this is not, I know this for a fact, most of that property is owned by several owners, and they're all over the United States. And they got one person here that's building illegal dams and crap, so.
But there is the state requirement that you have to be a resident for the next couple, or so many years, but that's only temporary. That goes away in 2 or 3 years, right? So,
I think it's February, when was it, Bob? Tuesday, February 11th?
okay, so again, the laws has all sorts of different provisions and changes. Let's see, yes ma'am.
I just am looking at this map, the red and white map, and as I'm interpreting it, it looks like there's a real concentration of the potential grow area in our district.
Sure.
And a little bit up here, northwest of the lake,
That map
but
needs to be clarified. That's what three maps was presented,
it
right?
looks like South County's a real grow hub to me.
Okay, using the criteria of staying out of the community growth boundaries, water districts, again, where the concentration of people are, the half-mile buffer around those, as well as around rancherias and the incorporated areas, the SOS and the public lands, that's what comes up with. If you want to give us another criteria where you should not allow it, we can certainly, the board can consider that. But that was the logic, that, it just was where the map took us.
I'm sorry, but the map doesn't follow that logic at all, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the bottom of the map, there are 3 little parcels that are set aside for exclusion. Three parcels in the midst of a whole grow area. Now, how do you suppose that happened? Could it be that one of those parcels belongs to a deputy sheriff from Napa County, and the other parcel is his mother's parcel? How do you suppose that happened? So the criteria is flawed. Flawed. All right, go back to Plan A.
Mike Terry, yes, sir.
Yeah. Whether I grow marijuana or not, you can't assess my parcel based on I grow marijuana. It's assessed by when I sell it, and the market value, market sets price. That's how that goes. Number two, if I buy agricultural land, I can grow whatever I want on it as long as it's zoned in and it's allowable in the county. You can't change what the zoning is on that.
I disagree with you. The state law clearly states that the local government has the right through zoning to restrict what cannabis is grown, manufactured, cultivated. I mean,
So
that's just
if you
the
can
law.
grow on ag land or can't grow on ag land, it's across the county, correct?
No.
No, you're wrong. You're gonna.
And please come to the board with the workshop and explain.
Hey, I'm just a realistic person saying,
Bates,
if I own my ag land, it's.
Sir, he's made the position, go to the workshop and make your point, okay? At this point, let's move on to the
Don't,
next
you're not
one.
gonna cut me off, you're not the god here.
Sir, I just did.
You're not
Can't do
God.
that,
I
buddy.
asked a simple question.
And you
If I
did,
have
and you
ag
gave me
land
the point, you made
in
the
the county,
point that you feel that agriculture is just open to everything. He's telling you no based on the state law. That's all there is. Next question.
Yes, ma'am.
don't cut me off.
I understand that the map is spotty and evolving. How and when are we going to know if we can cultivate or not on our specific property?
When the board of supervisors pass an ordinance.
Can you give me an estimate? Is that like, don't know at
I will
all?
not predict what the board of supervisors are going to do.
Within
Long
the
time
year
ago.
or months or,
I have a schedule that I would like to get something done by September.
okay.
Because the state licensing starting in January, but it's up to the board, and it depends on the number of workshops they want to hold, depends, I mean, that's, you know, that's their responsibility, not mine. Yes, sir.
I kind of would like to follow along with Bob Brown's footsteps. And if he can take a whole district out, I think we can take this district out at the same time.
Come to the workshops with the board of supervisors and make your case. With all due respect to Supervisor Brown, he's one vote.
I understand
You
that.
need 3 votes. And I'm not going to predict what the board of supervisors are going to do. If all 5 districts, and everybody comes up and says, we don't want it, that is an absolute right and ability to do that. And, you know, you could do that. I will tell you though, that what happens with that is everything goes back into the black market. And all the problems we have now continue. Now, I'm not saying the law will resolve those problems, but it is 100%. And so, you gotta balance that. And so, yes, sir.
I would like to say that, first of all, if you guys want this to be right, if you're allowing them to regulate it, it's better than if it's unregulated. Because there's a lot of guidelines that these farmers are gonna have to do. They're gonna have to go through DPR, Department of Pests, registration. They're gonna know exactly what they're spraying. They're gonna test their soils. If you guys don't allow this, then they're gonna be put everything and do anything that they want with this land. So you guys might as well, you know, take the best of it and actually have it regulated. Give these guys the power that they need to make sure that these guys are farming right. And that they protect your children as well as your society as a whole. Educate them. Do research, more research. Now you guys doing what you're talking about now, you're just gonna create more crime, is what you're gonna do.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with that, except that I have a vineyard, and right next door, and on the across the street, and over here on this side, they're growing marijuana. One of them will go through, I think, all this, it seems like a bunch of stuff, get a permit, and do the right thing. The other two would say, you know, screw it. And what is, I would like them to be
No, I understand
regulated.
that too, but see, but when you're giving them, when you have these guidelines, then it gives them the power to say, hey, you're not following the rules. And then they're gonna take care of it. You see what I'm saying?
That's what I want to know,
if you
how they're
don't,
going to take care of that.
Don't make promises that we're gonna.
No,
we can't. It'll help us focus our efforts.
But we're not giving them any of the regulations to follow.
Right, you describe 3 parcels, you think one will follow it, that takes away a third of the possibilities. I can focus efforts on 2 in your situation instead of worrying about all 3. and I know ahead of time. I don't have to spend time looking into it. I don't have to make the determination. My deputies don't have to make the determination. Our code enforcement officers, when they go out, right now they have to go out and reevaluate. Every time there's a complaint, they have to look around, check for the setbacks, check for the water resources, look at all that stuff. If we can show up or just look on a list and say this place is already permitted, all we need to go out and do this is once a year and do compliance checks, it'll make our job more easy. This is happening in Lake County. People are growing marijuana in Lake County. It's a shock for some people in the room, maybe, but most people are aware. Yeah, I know.
They brought up the viticulture lands, and they brought up the greenhouses to protect them.
Okay, hey,
Considering that.
hey, let's get back to
Considering that right now.
Okay. Yes, sir.
My name's Bob Stahl. I'm the director of Morgan Valley Ventures, and we're a collective in Lake County that's been operating in compliance with Article 72, better known as Measure N.
Can you speak up?
Speak
up, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I'm actually one of the only 16 people in this county that has obtained the most basic permit in all of this, which is the Central Valley Water Board's water discharge permit. There's only 16 people that have signed up to do it so far, and I have 3 of them. And my friend has 4 of them.
Okay, what's the question, sir?
My question, I guess it was more to the point of, my point was this, is kind of to your point, is that I just talked to the Central Valley Water Board today. Their satellite right now can read a quarter on your property. Pretty soon, those 3 people that didn't sign up for the water board are about to get $1,000 a day fine for not signing up.
Do you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, I think it's just good to know. I'm sorry.
Okay. So you had your hand up?
For the lady with the vineyard surrounded by pot, does the wine smell like weed?
No.
Taste like weed?
I'm sick in the fall because I can't stand the
But the
smell,
wine doesn't
but
actually
the
have
wine
that
is okay.
cannabis smell taste? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
How many collectives can one person be involved with?
The laws, that's one of the problems I have with Article 72.
Collectives are going away.
Yeah, and collectives are going away under the state law. So, but under Article 72, it's not clear how many collectives belong to.
Okay.
Yeah, the gentleman in the back corner there. Yeah, trying.
Well, I have a question, but I also wanted to say, I was also told by the water board that the minimum fine that they could actually, if they really got angry, they'd fine you $30,000, put a lien on your land, you name it. So that's something that's really an incentive. It's more than an incentive because you can lose your land. And I guess there is 16 water board licenses. So that helps Brian with his job. And that's what I think we need help in this community, obviously. I mean, we all have seen it, and sometimes there hasn't been the best representation through this cannabis community, and some of it is going to stay with the black market. But I'll tell you, that's just one water board thing. I've been to the Board of Equalization meetings, and they have stated very simply, they were talking about 1099 people, and the main auditor of California said, you're not going to be able to 1099.
Do you have a question?
So
Okay.
my question really was the $8 million that was coming up in terms of foreseen when we all voted in the room here for $1, $2, or $3. Was that for this year? I didn't read it closely enough.
No,
was that for this year or just like when this all starts?
That was our ultimate anticipation.
Okay.
And depending on, once we start getting applications in and we start understanding what the size of the cultivation areas are, that number will change. And we'll just have to wait and see.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff Martin?
Yes.
Have you communicated with other sheriffs or what's going on elsewhere as far as enforcement is concerned in places where they have adopted ordinances? I mean, even
A lot of us are waiting for the 2018 for when the state licenses go into effect. There are some jurisdictions that have taken a complete ban. Fresno County has taken a complete ban. I don't think a complete ban would fly in Lake County. I don't think we have the demographics to support that. The other issue with the complete ban is the tax revenues that are anticipated that are going to come through the state are going to be earmarked, and jurisdictions who have complete bans are not going to be available to certain of those tax revenues. Enforcement efforts across the state. The focus of my enforcement efforts. Cultivation and sales now is punishable until you get your 3rd conviction. It's a misdemeanor. It's no more than 6 months in jail and a $500 fine. So really the incentive to allocate a whole bunch of resources and send out teams and do search warrants for what is a pretty low-level misdemeanor, I have to look at this as responsible use of my funds. We're going to start really enforcing our efforts on the environmental impacts. So people that do have water discharge plans are already ahead of the game. They're following the environmental rules. When there's certain environmental violations that go along with marijuana cultivation, instead of taking 3 violations or 3 convictions, it's an instant felony conviction for using illegal pesticides, diverting waters, and those types of things. So we're going to really have more of a focus on the environmental aspect, as well as crimes related to children and diversion of children.
And that's current, or that's with the new ordinance?
We don't have a new ordinance yet. So
I know we don't.
It's in the process.
When-
Yeah.
I know.
we're already doing the environmental crimes. We're
Thank
part of
you.
we're
That
part
was
of
the question.
environmental crimes task force. We're working on it. We're sending our guys off. I got guys who came into this to be dope cops and grow beards and all this, and now they're learning how to do soil samples. Time change. But that's
He shaved his beard off.
Yeah, I can't grow a beard. But that's it's the will of the voters. I tell people the will of the voters. 56% I think it passed. 57% is what it passed with. So we're reactive in our enforcement efforts. What hasn't changed is our desire to keep the environment safe and preserve land for our future generations. So people that are taking advantage of our communities by damaging homes, damaging public lands, illegal grading, diverting waters, ruining streams, and those types of things, they'll get the extra effort.
There's a gentleman been in the back for 20 minutes now trying. Go ahead. Yeah.
I just like to hear Vote's opinion on his district and what he feels about all this. I attend all the board supervisor meetings. I'm on the technical advisory committee. I'm on ad hoc committees, which are like pretty involved with this industry overall. Most people recognize my face, but I haven't heard Vote really speak up at the meetings. It's always Rob Brown speaking 90% of the time about it and everything else. I'd like to hear Vote's opinion on everything.
Well, that's what the workshops are for. Please come. Myself, I said it from the beginning here, and I'll say it again. The voters passed it. What I've done is done my homework here. In District 1, every one of the districts here in District 1, it all passed except for one, from my understanding, which was Jerusalem Valley. I think there was 15 votes or something like that. It lost 8 to 7 or something. Every other district here in my area, they voted for it, at least for 64. So we've got to figure something out. And so what I'm doing is sitting and listening to the input of the community and figuring out how we're going to move forward with this dynamic situation. When my election, I said the same thing. I see this industry in the same way. It's been voted in. Now we've got to figure out how to regulate it, give him the opportunity, like you said, to really focus on the ones that are being bad. And it's going to be bad things. But I have a personal experience with this going back to 1999. Prior to gaming, this community did not open our casino with open arms. I was in there. I was told you drunken Indians are going to be laying in town drunk. And there's going to be This isn't funny. These are real things. I was told this with sincere hearts from people of this community. Now, 20 years later, we've taken an industry and we brought it to somewhere because we knew we had to be responsible because we were under the eye of everyone. So that's where I bring my experience from this. I do not advocate it. I don't plan on, God forbid, I talk to my son about drugs, my daughter, educating my own home and my family on the downfalls of this. And that's where I'm at. But you elected me as a leader. The people have spoken. We've got to figure it out. And I need everybody to show up to those workshops. And like I said, from a leading standpoint, I like to listen, get everybody's point of view, and move forward from there. When it gets done, or if it gets done, I'm only one vote too. But I know that the people in the district have done my homework here in District 1 were in favor of this. And anybody can look that up at the registrar's office. And so we've got to figure it out. That's where I'm at this point. And I'll work through the process. But the workshop, the 21st, next week, 1 to 5. Next week will be the longest one, I think. We're starting at 1 o'clock and it could go to 5. So that's where we're at. So, no, we'll close it at 5. Get everybody out of there. No problem. So that's where I'm at. So you asked me a question.
What you're talking about was next Tuesday, correct?
Next Tuesday. Is it? Oh, I apologize. The 21st. I apologize.
Okay.
And this month is going
Rob,
quicker.
you wanted to say something
Yeah,
about?
just real brief. And believe me, I know there's a lot of people in this room that don't want to hear from me again on this. But, you know, I've been elected 5 times, this board, and each time I've thrown myself out there because I believe that the voters in my district deserve to know how I feel about things. And then if they don't agree with me, don't elect me. If they do, then I can go and vote with confidence that I'm representing the district that I represent. And while it may not be popular to those that fill up a room, you don't represent the district either. And so I have to look at that. Now I also know that 64 passed dramatically, C passed dramatically, Prop 215 passed dramatically. But I also know those folks that voted for it, if you ask them, they'd say, well, we don't want it next to us though. So just because they voted for 64 doesn't mean they want it in the next door. And the other part of it is, and again, out of 5 elections, 4 of them, the other thing on the agenda or on the ballot was marijuana. So that was the issue every single time. The last time, the people that didn't like my position on marijuana tried to get to do a recall, and they failed at it because the folks in the district, I feel very strongly that the majority of them feel the same way I do. Doesn't mean I'm against marijuana. It means that I think in a situation like this, we probably should take it slow. I've heard people say that, and by taking it slow, we can have one district that can be a test model. If the rest of the county is successful and things are going really well, yeah, you're right, I'll consider it. I'm making that promise, I would reconsider it. But at the same time, the other board members should consider maybe closing things down a little bit. And the nice thing about pot as opposed to grapes or walnuts or pears, if you put it in, next year is a whole new year. You put in one of these other type agricultural ventures, they're in there for a long time. It's a huge investment, multi-year investment, so it's harder to do. But for marijuana, we can consider this from year to year. It's not the Constitution we're creating here. We're creating an ordinance that can be amended at any time. It can be amended at any election. There was a question about, we don't get to vote on this. You do. You get to vote on it every 4 years when you elect your supervisor. And so that's what you need to consider. It's not about, having a complete and total ban. I know what my district, for the most part, feels, and I'm willing to take that chance, and I'm willing to get thrown back out of office because it's just like the Dollar General or anything like that. People say, don't sell out to the big corporations. Well, I'm afraid that's what we're doing with the marijuana thing. We're not taking care of the small growers who, like Brian said, are doing it right and have traditionally done it right. They've done it right for years. It may not have been legal, but they weren't, at least in town. But now we're going to open it up to all these people, these influences from outside of California, outside of the United States in some cases, to come in here and how they buy the property. Not all of them, and I don't mean to generalize, but how they buy the property is they'll put a big group together. They'll come in here, they offer a lot of money for property, a lot of money. It's very attractive. But they'll give you $25,000 down, and they'll give you another $25,000 next year. They're not paying the full price for property in most cases. I know this is going to get blown out of context and everything. The pictures that he showed earlier of the illegal dam and the illegal grading and all that stuff that was going on, that's property that I sold. I'm holding a note on that property. I'm stuck with that property and that mess. And we've had a provision in that sale that they would comply with federal law. They didn't. Now I'm stuck with that mess, that illegal dam that's upstream from me. So I've experienced this. I know exactly what's going on. Now, there's also, I'm going to throw this out there too, because it's always, there's some ignorance out there of some people that say, you shouldn't be voting on this because you have a conflict of interest. Well, if I was for it, there wouldn't be a conflict, my bail business. But the fact that I'm against it has actually cost me, over the last 20 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars, because a lot of the people that are doing marijuana, when they go to jail and need bail, they don't call me. So it's just the opposite. So I got to tell you, the conflict would be if I said, yeah, let's open this thing up, and you guys, you got my number. No, that would be the conflict. The conflict is because I feel so strongly about it, and my integrity is always at stake in my own mind. I go to bed knowing that I've done the right thing, and there is no conflict. I have no financial gain in this, and I'm doing the best I can to represent my district.
Thank you, sir. Real quick, I see there's about 4 hands up. Hopefully we can round it because it's getting near 9, but anyways, I just want to make everybody aware of it, and we'll go. So go ahead, Ray.
So can an individual landowner put his land on the red spot here? I mean, can you say, I want it to be out,
Zoned out?
zoned out?
You can present that to the board and ask for that conclusion.
Okay, there's somebody back here, there we go.
Hi, Michael Green with Lake County Growers. We're one of the groups that are working with the county. It's been a lot of fun, and I want to thank everyone for being here. A lot of our concerns revolve around some of the maps. You only saw a couple of them. At the last workshop, there were several more maps. I'm sure at the 21st, we're going to see a lot of maps. Our concerns have basically been around not focusing on the maps, but maybe focusing on some other ideas to address the very real concerns the farmers and others have concerned. One of the trial balloons we tried to throw up, and I'm going to throw it up again here, was the notion of a temporary residency requirement / property ownership requirement, that if we're going to do this, a better way possibly to throttle this, rather than say, let's take out an entire district or all the ag zoning, is what can we do to take care of the people that are here locally? And we even threw in a provision that people in fire-affected areas, for example, that have temporary dwelling permits might be able to have a leg up. So we didn't hear much about that or anything about it the last workshop, but I was wondering, has there been any discussion on that? And if there hasn't, was there any general feedback that people had on that type of idea?
The staff has carefully considered your dissertation. This guy, he just writes and writes and writes. And we have, at the staff level, we're developing a couple concepts, and we're still trying to flush those out, and we'll present those ideas to the board. And right now, I don't have any specific recommendations, but we're looking at the Prop 64. There's some language in that. But we're also looking at our scoring system and seeing if that can be a vehicle to accomplish something. So we're considering.
So you're talking about ways to protect our local growers and to protect us, in fact, from too much proliferation of outside people who have no interest in our county. Because I think that would be something important, and from what I've heard, there are places that do that.
In the state law, in Prop 64, there is language that the state cannot issue a license to somebody who has not been a resident for 4 years or something like that. And
California, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And so we're looking at building upon that. However, that is only for a short period of time. That's not.
But I think that what we'd like to do is protect the people who live in Lake County, including the growers, you know, so and also promote our local businesses and so on. Even though they grow pot, so what? It's an agriculture, you know. It's like, let's protect them.
Okay. Just as nobody coming out of high school gets into the farming business because it costs so much money, the regulations from the state and the permit requirement, you could talk to these guys that are involved in the business, the permit costs are astronomical. And the regulations, well, our permit fees are not going to be astronomical. The requirements to meet are going to require large capitalization. It will possibly require partnerships with people from the outside that have the money. And so to make the business work, you don't want to make it so narrow that it becomes uneconomical. So that's part of the discussion we have to have with the board of how do we allow the locals to get a part of the market, but make that where we still meet all the standards and things, and how do we economically achieve that? So it's need more discussion on that.
Okay, I'd like to thank Bob for his time and Sheriff Martin here too. Two things real quick. Thank you all for how nice it was, this conversation, number one. Number two, just so we make it, the questions kind of come up about Lake County. You can see there's a lot of work. I've heard a lot of community development has taken a lot of heat lately for how supposedly dragging this out. Let me tell you, in Mendocino County, they're going through the same thing, even though we hear how proactive they are. They do have a lot going on with their regulations too, so it's a work in progress, and sooner or later, towards the end of this year, I'm sure there'll be a program out there for everybody. So anyways, thank you to everybody. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Sheriff Martin.
Thank you.
Very good, okay. Real quick, we got a couple of quick things to get through. Anybody from the bocce ball league here want to talk about it? I'm sorry, did I hear you?
Are you in the office tomorrow? Yeah, well, I'm doing that Terrace Middle School.
The next one was on the agenda
They won't
is
notice
the
you.
nomination of the person of the year.
So I'm doing the Terrace Middle School stuff, so I'll be over there. Thanks,
I'm
man.
going
Is the Calgary Council next week?
talk slowly until
Next Thursday.
people that are gonna leave are out, so.
Take care,
Good
Bob.
riddance. Thanks, Ron.
Hello, we still have a meeting going. Hello, we still have a meeting going. Hello.
If you're gonna talk, go outside.
Please, please, we still got a meeting going.
Actually, this agenda item is misstated, and I did it. It's not for nominating person of the year. It's talking about developing a way that MAP, or the Middletown Area Town Hall, can identify people in the community that have done a lot for the community and recognize them for their hard work. We have a lot of people that do really a lot. Not a lot of people. We have a few people that do a lot, and a lot of people that do nothing, unfortunately, and that's the way most towns are. So I'd like to have permission from this body to proceed with developing a Person of the Year award from math. And we'll make it so that we'll have nominations and we'll vote right here at math and advertise it. And then, being selfish, I'd like to make that presentation each year at the chili cook-off. Because that's good for the senior center and it'd be good for Middletown. So with your permission, with your approval, I'd like to be able to do that.
So is there a motion? Okay, what is the motion? State the motion. You do not want to do that motion, I guarantee you.
You probably will anyway.
All right.
Okay.
Control yourself.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to make the motion? Because I can read it,
Yeah,
okay?
you gotta read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure he knows what he's doing.
I know, huh? I'd like to make a motion that Fletcher head the project of getting a person of the year and putting that project together, and Tim being allowed to announce it during the chili cook-off.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? So the vote is to let Fletcher, do what he wants. Come up with a program as far as the person of the year within the South County District. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Motion passed, okay. Next is the math goals, and Marlene.
Okay, I have quite a few ideas and I just want to throw them out there. You can take one, take all, take none, whatever.
Pick your top three.
That's not, I have too many. I can say them really fast though, okay? Okay, arches for the park on Highway 29 for the entry to the park, a water feature for the park, a time capsule. We need to paint the curbs again with better paint than what the county gave us.
I'll pass that on.
The whole county's painting
Well,
the same paint.
Caltrans has good paint. The
Yeah.
whatever the county gave us didn't last. A solar plant for Middletown.
A what?
A what? A solar
A
plant?
solar plant for Middletown.
Manufactured by solar? Solar farm?
Right.
Solar farm, okay.
Solar farm, I guess is what it's called. I don't know if we are still involved in the triangle of property that's across from the high school on the corner of Wardlaw and 29. There's a little triangle that Caltrans was going to give us to develop. I haven't heard anything about that for a while.
I don't know whether it's been turned over to the county or not.
Oh, okay.
You want me to investigate?
That would be nice,
All right.
yeah.
I'll find out.
I don't know what
And you're talking about the triangle that's by the plaza?
Right in front
Right.
of the old flower shop.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where the old tree used to be.
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
that?
yeah.
And also, maybe work with the Board of Supervisors in helping some of the fire victims that were maybe either uninsured or underinsured, yet are not low income, because all of the programs that I'm seeing are available for low income people to rebuild, but not for people that are just above low income, that maybe need help with maybe specialized loans or something that would be available to them to rebuild. Because some people are just over the threshold and they're not getting the help. If we could create programs for them.
So I can address it real quick. Hi, David Thurber, branch manager, Tri-County Bank here in Middletown. That is actually something that, as lenders, we're trying to figure out how to put that together. It's not as simplistic as simply stating here's a loan. CalHome has some specific things that are put together for that. From a lender perspective, we have some leeway, especially at a local bank level versus a large national bank level, but it's trying to find the lender and the funds to do it, because you have to securitize it. And if it's not a construction loan, it has specific parameters and rules of how that's put together. It's not a finished product, so it's kind of that in between. So it's something that I know we're working on personally, and it's kind of a project of mine with the company that I stated when I took over the role. But it's trying to figure out how we do that, how we fill that gap, exactly that gap you're talking about, those folks that fall into the income structure, for CalHome or Hammers for Hope and that piece, and then those who have the ability to, kind of exceed that. So there's definitely a gap there. I think it's something we're addressing. I know it's a conversation with TLC, and we're addressing those items as well. But it's certainly something that's out there. So.
Okay, as a goal item, though, that'd be something to talk about versus not right now, but it's a goal item.
Right, well, it's,
How many
just,
more are on your list?
that's it for now.
You sure?
For this month.
This month, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have some recommendations?
I think Marley did a fabulous job.
Yeah. Sir, in the back.
To this subject or any subject?
This is about math goals to try to help the community this year.
Yes, Western Line Road is the second thoroughfare to our county, via over the hill that way. It's hammered crap. It needs to be handled because all the neighborhood is complaining about it, and we're sick of it not being patrolled based on the fact that me and my wife drive our kids up and down to school, and hookers are using that road for their business. And I'm not going to say where they're coming from, but that's what's happening. And I live here, and that's what happened.
Okay.
And something needs to be done about it. And it's the truth.
Yeah,
Okay?
First of all,
The road needs to be handled, number one.
Western Line Road, of course, there is a point at which it turns into snow.
I know about Western Line Road. I just didn't know we had hookers that were mobile.
Hey, it's crazy. Coming up all day long. Find them, you gotta find them.
So that's, we'll put that on the list of suggestions. Anybody else have
It's
some?
getting real old, and the road is.
The road's terrible.
Yeah, the road is rough. I do travel over
And
there.
it's a state road, and it has to be maintained.
Okay, any other goals that anybody like to see happen? Okay, we'll talk about this at the next meeting.
I got one more,
Yeah, go ahead.
just to mention it. As we all know, and I hate to say it, but I am getting a little bit older, the crosswalks as you come through town, we've done a great job of painting them and those types of things, but maybe you could set a goal that we could get the push buttons that would light up when people are crossing. I just think it's a safety issue that could be addressed. That's not a big project, but I think it could definitely help out. I think we probably all went through it going through town late at night, or someone going, especially right there coming between Nobles and just down this way. So I don't know. I just want to throw it out there. It's something I'm going to be looking into as supervisor, but I think it's a good safety project. We've already had people hitting those crosswalks during the day, and we've all been there at night when you go through. At least if you have a button to push, you'll see it light up. And just something simple, don't have to be real expensive, but something to light up around those crosswalks. So I'm going to hit Jamie about that and the safety with Caltrans. but if I could put it on as goal math, get the backing, it would definitely help me out.
And of course, they see you next month, so.
I'd like to piggyback on that goal and coming into our area, having lights that say what the speed limit is, because people are still flying through town.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, in the back, Mike.
I'd like to move table the rest of the agenda and adjourn. It's getting late.
Wait until we get the bylaw.
Yeah, hang on 2 seconds, you're getting close there, Mike. Okay, any more on the goals? Okay, I close that to the next meeting. Okay, real quick, back in the back were the bylaws as we discussed. Hopefully you've had a chance. Are there any comments towards the revisions that have been made?
I made a motion that we table the approval of the bylaws revisions until the next regularly scheduled meeting. Give everyone an opportunity to read them, and at the next meeting, since this will qualify as an announcement, then we can get them passed at the next meeting. So my motion is to table this.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
No, there's one more thing.
No, there isn't.
Yes, there is.
What?
The
Approval for the chairman.
chairman, there's one quick thing, there's a project.
Remember this?
She said,
Yeah, but we didn't actually vote.
he said we
Vote
could,
up.
the chairman.
Because
weren't
it's
you
on the
listening?
back. So, yeah, that was tricky. Out, right here, is the pre-application for the Roger Miller Retreat and Farming location.
Move that we approve the chairman to attend the pre-application meeting and report back to the body.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Absentee?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Good night, everybody. See you in April.
Please, listen to me. When I made the motion, she said it's at the end of the agenda. We can't do it